What is going on, everybody? And in this video, we're giving you a state of the market and some picks that I'm looking at for February 1st of 2022. So if you haven't done so already, consider subscribing and go ahead and drop a like before we get started. So state of the markets, it looks very promising. Now, if you've been following me at all, I've been talking about that I really like the fact that SPX was holding this essentially this 43, we'll say the 4,300 mark at this point. We did chop a lot last week. The market was trying, from what it looks like, looking back and reflecting on what it looks like, we hit 12% correction on the index. The market was trying to price in essentially a 5 point essentially rate raise in the market. And so I believe it has hit that. I believe it's essentially hit what it wanted to. Leading up to this point, Powell is kind of wishy-washy and everything. So the market took it upon themselves at the beginning of this year to make a correction so that way when it does actually get announced, depending on how much, whatever the case is, the market's already kind of priced some of that in. I still do believe, though, that when it does actually come down to action being taken by Powell in the Fed on a rate increase, that we will get a lot more volatility. So I don't believe volatility has gone away at all. I believe volatility will be very much alive this year, only up until, I believe, until the first rate raise. And I think from that point, people, like the market always does, once information becomes the norm, the market just kind of goes with the flow and really doesn't care anymore. It loses essentially its sticker shock value, and so the market will just proceed on making all-time highs because that's what the market is essentially supposed to do, is continue to grow. We're supposed to continue to grow and prosper as an economy. So being said, we had essentially a wedge break here, and today we've pumped back over the 200. I was really concerned over the weekend if we were going to break that 44.33 mark, but we did today. We opened and we popped. It took us some effort. I think it really took Apple to push us over. Then your Teslas, your Microsofts, the chips woke up today. A lot of stuff started waking up today and pushing it back up. But this is one thing to keep in mind, and what I'm looking at here is you have essentially the 45.29 mark here, which is your daily 20 EMA. It's your first attempt, and something I've always talked about. Anytime there's a first attempt, you're going to get a very hard rejection off of this. So looking for at least, if you look even at this, you want to do a Fibonacci retracement here real quick. We could possibly be looking at even a 50% back down to the 44. So I'm kind of looking for a pullback tomorrow. I think it would actually set up very nicely. I don't know about a 50% pullback, maybe even 38%. So looking around that 44, 38 mark tomorrow, I think could be a strong possibility. At least retest this break here is something we need. But I think that would set us up perfectly. If we did pull back to that level tomorrow, that would set us up for Google and for AMD tomorrow night for their earnings. And then from that point, I think that will push us up. Are we going to hit all-time highs? I think the journey back up is going to be very pump and chop kind of pattern that we're going to see. We kind of had a pump and dump or dump and chop kind of pattern on the way down. I think we're going to have that same pattern on the way up. It's going to be very choppy, again, all depending on what happens with the Fed and how they play out. Do they come with just a 5% increase on rate raises? The market's already priced that in. Again, that's not going to stop volatility. Just be aware of that. And then if they do anything greater than that, they do multiple ones, you may see a little bit more of a pullback. We've already had a correction. I don't think we're going to correct any more than here. I think we found our bottom. A lot of people are talking about a bear market. I just don't see that. The economy is still very strong. We're obviously seeing that in the earnings. So that's something to keep in mind. There's a lot of stuff that floats out there is trying to get through the noise and actually decipher what is true about the market, and ultimately the market will show you. And I did notice down here, especially last Friday, we had a rocket. As soon as essentially the market came down to that level, we essentially bottle rocket straight out of that bottom zone. So there are obviously buyers here. Someone may be buying the dip at this whole time around this level, this 42.82 mark. But again, what I was looking for was a break here. We had a clean break here, and we popped straight up. Again, tomorrow I'm looking for that pullback into the zone, or at least get some sort of wick back into the zone tomorrow. As long as it holds, I think we are good, and we're going to start pushing up. But again, you got to see here, we have actually made it down to the 50 EMA on the monthly, and that's what we're tagging and playing around with here. Now we're going to get a retest of the 20 EMA weekly up here. So I wouldn't actually be surprised if we gapped up tomorrow. We could possibly even gap up and get a hard rejection off of here. How far down are we going to go is really the question. Are we going to make it all the way back to the 200? Maybe not. We may actually come down here. Where these wicks have been bouncing off of that 44.72 mark could be a possibility. Again, if there starts catching momentum, and earnings have been really good, I think earnings are kind of showing the market that even though there's a lot of companies that have been hit bad from the pandemic, the big leaders, the industry leaders, have still been doing extremely well, and so you'll see strength in other different things. And so, being said, I think that's going to drive us to all-time highs. I don't know. I think this run is going to be short term. I think we have about 2 weeks until the beige book. There's no official date to when we get that. I think the next FOMC meeting isn't until March, from what I can see on the federal calendar. So being said, we might have a whole month without really Fed interruption. Yes, we're going to get some Fed chatter and all that. I believe the beige book, if that does come out next month, or in 2 weeks, if that does come out, I don't see anything official on the beige book either. But if it does come out in 2 weeks, you're going to get some volatility. You're going to get some pullback on that, because I think people are trying to get Powell's mindset. But with this move coming out of here in a 12% correction, if that 12% correction covers a 5% increase or a 5-point increase, then you have to keep in mind that the market may not care what Powell says until action is already taken. They know Powell has kind of been very skittish on everything that's been going on, has been very generalized in his approach on everything that he's been putting out there. Hasn't really given specifics on what data he's really looking at or really going off of. But again, something I've talked about, I think he's really looking to see what Q1, how the economy is doing around Q1, if inflation's running away. I think if he determines that inflation is really bad at that point, I think he'll actually start taking action. Otherwise, I think he's going to kick that can further down the road, which will only fuel this economy, or this market. Not so much the economy, but the market will be fueled by that and continue to climb back to all-time highs, and possibly even start getting that price discovery again, where we're not worried about what's the Fed going to price in, what's the Fed going to do, because the market already tried to price that in, got that out of the way. Beginning of the year, I think the remainder of the year, if Powell continues to kick that can, we're going to start really hitting some big numbers, I think, this year. And not being a bear market, I think people are too quick to put a bear market on something that is been fueled and has tons of money in the system. And as we can see on the rate raises and stuff, the Fed does not move quick. So even though they talk about how they're going to try to take some of that money out of the economy, it is not going to be a quick process. And so you're going to get another massive push, I think, moving forward. But I don't want to get too ahead of myself. Again, this is all theory. I think everybody should have their own thesis going into the market each and every day. But Bitcoin, we'll look at some Bitcoin. Bitcoin's actually starting to push back up, which is great to see. Again, we want to break back over this wedge. So kind of looking at that 39K mark, 40K mark, obviously is that mental hurdle right there. So if we can break over that, that would be positive. Again, my floor here is still 32. I'm not really worried about Bitcoin as long as it'll break this 32. I think that might even possibly be our new base, but we'll have to see, especially with everything going on. I think the market's gonna, again, Bitcoin will run in parallel as far as worrying about inflation. It will be that inflation hedge plus its massive popularity with NFTs. I think could really push Bitcoin up to, not Bitcoin itself, but just crypto in general. We'll push it to new all-time highs here with the whole markets. Again, the longer Powell kicks this can down the road, it's only going to essentially fuel the markets. Now, going into tomorrow, Tesla, obviously a big one. I want to stay with all the big names that are that have done well for earnings so far. So you're looking at your Tesla, your Apple, and your Microsoft. I'm not looking at Apple so much. Apple is already kind of had a big run. It'll do a big run for a couple days on end, and then at that point, you start seeing a shift into some others because people trust Apple the most, obviously. So you'll see a lot of flood to that, which we've seen, but I think we'll start seeing some of that money flood into some of these other ones, especially since there's a lot of earnings this week. You have to be aware of that. You got Google, AMD tomorrow, Facebook, Amazon, all of them are doing it this week. So that's what really matters. Again, my primary focus is going to be on chips this week because you got AMD tomorrow. And I think if they do well, you're going to see some massive movement in that space. So being said, Tesla's one I want to watch tomorrow. Looking for the dip. Again, I don't know how far down we're going to come. I think we're going to get a rejection off this 20 monthly, possibly even come close to this, essentially this 861 tomorrow. Maybe not even that. We might even bounce off the 900 and continue to go up. Again, there's a lot of resistance. Kind of hoping we gap tonight. I don't know if that's going to possibly happen. We might get that pullback first. If we get good earnings from Google and stuff tomorrow night, we may get a gap tomorrow. It may put us over some of the stuff. Again, there's going to be some, I think, some pump and chop on the way up. So just be mindful of that. Google is another big one. They got earnings as well tomorrow night. So tomorrow, I'm not really looking so much to play. I want to see how it does. But as long as it holds this 2631 mark, looking for this to actually start gapping and running. So this is more of a Wednesday play I'm looking at. I'm trying to project into the remainder of the week because again, not every day you're going to be playing anything. So it's good to just kind of wait and see what plays out. Facebook, another big one. Kind of just waiting to see their earnings is on Wednesday. So looking to see what they do on Wednesday, but looking forward to that. Microsoft has been kind of chop lately. Again, it's gotten to that chop spot. So this is one of the major stocks that have been in that chop spot. It is touching off the 20 EMA weekly again, where a lot of other stocks are getting ready to hit. Again, I think we might reject tomorrow, come down a little bit, maybe to that 303 mark, and then gap up overnight tomorrow. So I think tomorrow, it really depends. I'm looking for, again, a pullback. I'm not sure if we get it. We may gap over tonight. I think it's going to be a gap up either tonight or tomorrow. I think is a strong possibility. Again, but we don't want to get back into that zone that we just essentially pulled out of. ASML is one I want to watch tomorrow. Again, same thing. I'm looking for a pullback. If we can, essentially that 650 is what I'm looking at for ASML. If it does come here and hold, I'll definitely be trying to hold this overnight, trying to swing this overnight, especially for AMC. If AMC does well, I'm looking at your ASML and Nvidia for the following day. LRCX is another big one to watch. It moves a little bit slower. Yeah, you might actually get a rejection off this 20. It'd be the first attempt. So you probably get a rejection. It's rejected a couple different times, but I think you might get another rejection here and then hold until Tuesday night. And then I think we're going to possibly gap. Again, we got so much clutter up here, so much resistance. You definitely have to watch for that. Amazon could be a strong play here. It is earnings. So you're going to get a lot of premium if you play contracts. That's why I'm kind of holding off on Amazon. I'm waiting for essentially the contract premium to come down because it is earnings week for that. So I want to see how that does. Shop. Again, another big one I really want to watch. I want to see how this essentially this top zone right here is what I want to watch for Shop. I'd really like to get into this because this thing has taken such a massive hit. It's actually way down at 950, which is ridiculous. I can't believe it actually hit 800. So looking for a pullback. We may even get I think we're pull back the most, probably 900. You really kind of want it to hold this zone here, this 929 mark tomorrow. If it does, I think it'd be great for earnings. Their earnings, I'm not exactly sure when their earnings are. I believe they might have another week or two before they have earnings. But sympathy play, if Amazon does do well, look for SHOT to do well as well. So you want to see how that plays. One thing to keep in mind, though, if Amazon does tank for whatever reason, this is why I wouldn't play earnings, because I think it could be really sketchy on how Amazon's going to do, to be honest. And there was a lot of numbers that were saying that Amazon, sales in general for Christmas were way down. So that's why I've been kind of staying away from e-commerce, just because I'm not really sure. I want to see how earnings are before I play that. Nvidia, again, another big one I want to watch coming this week. Looking for that pullback around that 200, essentially that 230 want to hold. We do have resistance here at essentially that 250. So looking for this, want to buy the retest if it does come down here into the zone. And then, like I've been stating and going to reiterate here, is if we do hold this overnight or going into the close, I will swing this, because I think if AMD will do well, this could possibly gap over where we need it to and start actually pushing up, making some bigger movements. So some of the things I want to watch. Another big one I do want to watch is Airbnb. It's making up ground very quickly. So possibly even looking at 147 pullback. Again, we're coming into resistance, so it's something you got to keep in mind. Are we going to reject hard and start pulling back? You have to be very vigilant on this, and I think that even the swings that I'm doing might only be overnight, and then essentially readjusting for the next day and seeing how overnight session did. I think that's going to be important going forward, because I think there's going to be a lot of stuff. There will be a lot of chop and misunderstanding. I think until we get to some higher levels, once we start breaking over this resistance, I'll be more comfortable holding for a longer period of time. If you are investing, I've talked about this a couple different times. You should that there was good times to be buying last week. I did. If you didn't follow my my daily updates, I was talking multiple times on that if you were investing, that this would probably be a good time to buy. Again, not financial advice, but I felt it was a good time around the time the stock market had already taken a 12% hit on the index, and most of these have taken 50 to 80% hits, especially on tech. So, but if you have, that's essentially what I'm looking at. And I don't want to make this video too long because it's only a daily update. But if you've made this all the way to the end, I appreciate you. Drop that thumbs up and subscribe if you haven't done so already. And until next time, I'll see you guys later.